This is Zimbabwe, a landlocked country situated in southern Africa, bordered by South Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Mozambique. With an estimated population of over 16 million people as of 2023. Zimbabwe is known for its diverse landscapes, rich cultural heritage, and tumultuous political history. The capital and largest city is Harare, located in the north-central part of the country. Zimbabwe was formerly known as Rhodesia and gained independence from the United Kingdom in 1980 after years of white minority rule. In this video, we shall be taking a deep dive into this very interesting country, showing you everything you need to know. But first, please take a few seconds and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our videos. 1. Zimbabwe has a long and complex history dating back thousands of years. The region was once home to the ancient Kingdom of Zimbabwe, which flourished between the 11th and 15th centuries and left behind impressive stone ruins like those at Great Zimbabwe. In the 19th century, the area was colonized by the British and became known as Rhodesia, named after the British imperialist Cecil Rhodes. After years of white minority rule and racial segregation, Zimbabwe finally gained independence in 1980 and was renamed to its current name. However, the post-independence period has been marked by political instability, economic crises, and human rights abuses under the authoritarian rule of Robert Mugabe, who served as president from 1987 to 2017. Zimbabwe continues to grapple with these challenges as it works to rebuild and reinvent itself in the 21st century. 2. Zimbabwe is a landlocked country situated in southern Africa, covering an area of around 390,580 square kilometers. The country is characterized by a diverse range of landscapes, including the lush eastern highlands, the rugged Matobo Hills, the vast Kalahari Desert in the southwest, and the mighty Zambezi River, which forms the northern border with Zambia. Zimbabwe's climate varies from tropical in the north to subtropical in the south, with a rainy season typically lasting from November to March. The country is home to abundant wildlife, including the iconic African elephant, lion, leopard, and black rhinoceros, which can be found in its network of national parks and game reserves. 3. Zimbabwe has had a tumultuous political history since gaining independence in 1980. The country was ruled for 37 years by Robert Mugabe, a liberation war veteran who led the ruling ZANU-PF party. Mugabe's tenure was marked by authoritarian rule, human rights abuses, and economic mismanagement that led to hyperinflation and widespread poverty. In 2017, Mugabe was ousted in a military coup and replaced by Emmerson Mnangagwa, another ZANU-PF stalwart. Under Mnangagwa, the political landscape has remained unstable, with opposition parties facing repression and allegations of electoral fraud. Zimbabwe continues to struggle with entrenched corruption, high unemployment, and a faltering economy. The country's future remains uncertain as it navigates the challenges of transitioning to a more democratic and prosperous society. 4. Zimbabwe's economy has faced significant challenges since its independence in 1980. Once a regional agricultural powerhouse, the country's economy has been crippled by decades of mismanagement, hyperinflation, and political instability. Key industries include mining, agriculture, and tourism, though each sector has faced its own setbacks. Mining exports such as platinum, gold, and ferroalloys remain important, but production has been hampered by aging infrastructure and lack of investment. The agricultural sector, once the backbone of the economy, declined sharply after the controversial land redistribution program in the early 2000s. The GDP of Zimbabwe is currently $32.4 billion, and its GDP per capita is $2,000. Despite these challenges, Zimbabwe has potential for growth, particularly in reviving tobacco production and capitalizing on its mineral wealth. including significant reserves of lithium. However, addressing structural issues and implementing the right policies will be crucial for Zimbabwe to achieve sustainable economic development. 5. Zimbabwe has a relatively well-developed education system, with primary and secondary schooling being compulsory and free. The system is modeled after the British colonial education system and consists of 7 years of primary school, followed by 6 years of secondary education. Primary and secondary schools are overseen by the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education. At the tertiary level, Zimbabwe has several public and private universities, including the University of Zimbabwe, which is the oldest and largest. These institutions offer a range of undergraduate and postgraduate programs. However, the education system has faced challenges in recent decades, including underfunding, teacher strikes, and a brain drain as many qualified educators have left the country. Despite these issues, Zimbabwe continues to place a high value on education, and literacy rates remain relatively high compared to other African nations. 6. Zimbabwe has a mixed public-private healthcare system, though the public sector provides the majority of healthcare services. The public system is centralized and overseen by the Ministry of Health and Childcare, with hospitals and clinics operated at the national, provincial, and district levels. While healthcare is nominally free, chronic underfunding has led to shortages of medicines, equipment, and staffing, especially in rural areas. The private healthcare sector caters to those who can afford it, offering more comprehensive services. However, private care remains inaccessible for most Zimbabweans. Key challenges facing the overall healthcare system include HIV/AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis, and a lack of healthcare infrastructure, especially in remote regions. Despite these issues, Zimbabwe has made progress in areas like child and maternal health, though the system remains stretched and in need of further investment and reform. 7. Zimbabwe has a well-developed transportation network, though infrastructure challenges have impacted its efficiency in recent years. The country has a national road network, including major highways connecting the capital Harare to other urban centers and neighboring countries. However, many rural roads are in poor condition due to lack of maintenance. Railway services are available, operated by the National Railways of Zimbabwe, providing both passenger and freight transport. Air travel is another important mode, with several international and domestic airports, including the main hub at Harare. Urban areas also have public bus systems, though services can be unreliable. Overall, transportation remains a mixed bag in Zimbabwe, balancing functional networks with infrastructure deficiencies. 8. Zimbabwe has a relatively high cost of living, especially in urban areas, driven by a variety of economic factors. After abandoning its own currency in 2009, due to hyperinflation, Zimbabwe adopted the US dollar, which has contributed to price instability and high costs for consumers. Rent, groceries, transportation, and utility bills often consume a significant portion of household budgets, particularly for the lower and middle-income classes. The stark income inequality in the country also impacts the cost of living, with the wealthy able to afford a much higher standard of living compared to the majority of the population living in poverty. Overall, the combination of economic challenges, high inflation, and uneven income distribution has made Zimbabwe one of the more expensive places to live in sub-Saharan Africa, presenting a major hardship for many citizens. 9. Zimbabwe has a diverse population, with the majority belonging to the Shona ethnic group, which makes up around 80% of the total population. The Shona people are further divided into several subgroups, such as the Zezuru, Karanga, Korakor, Manika, and Ndo. The second largest ethnic group is the Ndebele, who account for around 20% of the population. The Ndebele people have their origins in the Nguni migrations from South Africa in the 19th century. Other minority groups in Zimbabwe include the Tonga, Venda, Kilanga, Sotho, and Asian and European descendants. Despite this ethnic diversity, Zimbabwe has generally maintained relative social and political stability, with the Shona and Ndebele being the dominant political and cultural forces in the country. 10. Zimbabwean cuisine reflects the country's diverse cultural heritage and agricultural resources. Staple foods include sadza, a thick cornmeal porridge that is a dietary mainstay, often served with stewed meat, vegetables, or relish. Other popular dishes include muriwo, leafy green vegetables cooked with onions and tomatoes, and lehanda, a peanut butter-based stew. Meats like chicken, beef, and goat are commonly used, as is fish from the country's many rivers and lakes. Traditional dishes also feature ingredients like millet, sorghum, and tubers. Influences from British colonial rule and neighboring countries like South Africa, Zambia, and Mozambique can also be seen in Zimbabwean cuisine. Alongside these traditional foods, the urban centers of Zimbabwe also have a growing restaurant scene featuring international cuisines. But the country's rich culinary heritage remains an important part of its cultural identity. 11. Zimbabwe has a diverse religious profile, with Christianity being the predominant faith. Around 86% of the population identifies as Christian, with most following Protestant denominations such as Pentecostal, Methodist, and Anglican. Indigenous African religious beliefs, often incorporating ancestral veneration, are also widely practiced, especially in rural areas. Other religious minorities include Muslims, who make up around 1% of the population, as well as Hindus, Baha'is, and Jews. Religious freedom is generally respected in Zimbabwe, though there have been some reports of government interference in religious affairs at times. Overall, the country's religious diversity reflects its multicultural heritage and history.